Anthropomorphication, it says you must use caution when under the influence of it, and you are almost 100% of the time, unless you take the time to stop and really assess what it is you're feeling about this person because they belong to this certain race, this certain political leaning, this certain religion, this certain other group of people. Maybe they're part of a book club, or maybe they love 50 Shades of Grey or something. They're part of a 50 Shades of Grey book club or something like that. And you're like, dude, that's the worst book I ever read. The people who love those books, they're idiots. You're anthropomorphizing that group of people, 50 Shades of Grey lovers, as all idiots. Do you see what I'm saying? So this is an issue, like I said, when it comes to race, when it comes to age, when it comes to gender, when it comes to things like that. And don't think that this doesn't have an effect on you, because it does. Alright, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another video. So today's topic is rapport, meaningful connection, and behavioral switching. Alright, so why you must use caution when under the influence of anthropomorphication and other social biases. Now, I threw a lot at you right there. We're going to go through this piece by piece here in a second. But first, I would like to start this off with a very important quote. Alright? It's from Abraham Lincoln, and he basically says that whenever he feels like, I don't like somebody, he needs to get to know them better. He basically says, I don't like that man. I must get to know him better. This is a very, very strong, like a very mature thing to do. Okay? Because what does this mean? It means that, like, oh, I don't like this person. Instead of, what do most people do? Be like, I'm going to avoid them. I'm going to stay away from them. I'm going to continue to not like them, and then use confirmation bias to say, like, oh, look at all these other little things that are wrong with them. See, I knew I didn't like them. I knew I didn't like them. That's what most people do. Because, in a way, that's what your brain is programmed to do. Thousands of years ago, it was good to, if you didn't like something, your instinct was pretty high that, like, oh, okay, or pretty sharp about things you didn't like, because things you didn't like could literally kill you. Most people that you don't like aren't going to lead to your death in some way, but your brain still kind of feels like that. So, in a social situation, if you're in a situation to where you want to build some rapport or meaningfully connect or have other people connect with you, where you want to be liked, okay, and be able to, I don't know, establish good, not just good communication, but good, like, camaraderie, you have to take on that, like, basically, that what Abraham Lincoln lived by. I don't like that man. I must get to know him better. This means that, like, build more meaningful connection, right? And build more rapport. Now, how do we do that? We build rapport by finding commonalities. There's a few things you can do to build it just from the get-go. You're probably going to like somebody more if they introduce themselves, if they smile, if they make eye contact, right? If they seem sort of warm when you meet them. You're not going to like somebody who shows up to you and they're like, oh, what's up, man? Who the hell are you? Why am I talking to you? You see what I mean? You're not gonna like somebody that's like that. Or if you ever meet those people who somebody introduces y'all, or you try to introduce yourself, and they're like, oh yeah, they're looking at their phone, they're like, oh yeah, my name is Jacob or something, and then they just keep going back, and they're not giving you this meaningful connection. They're not actually connecting. That's the opposite of what they're doing. They're just giving you these dry responses and remarks, or like a weak handshake or something, which is a good indication. In most of the world, a handshake with a firm grip, not a strong-ass grip, but just like a firm grip, that shows, like, that right there shows connection and an excitement to get to know them. That's why it is known, and it is known as a measure of respect. So you don't want to get that person who has a really limp hand and they're like, oh, hey, you know what I mean? And then go back to their phone. That's the opposite of rapport. Those are ways to build it quickly if you're, like, meeting somebody. Or those are, like, quick-fire ways. Then there's deeper rapport. If the introduction or the conversation or the partnership or something is going to be longer than, like, 60 seconds, you want to get into other things. You want to, if you don't like somebody, or if they are neutral, meaning you feel like your opinion of them is neutral, you want to take that Abraham Lincoln stance and be like, I must get to know them better. Because I guarantee it, y'all have commonalities, even if there are many uncommonalities, so to speak. Even if there's many beliefs that they have that your beliefs are in direct opposition to, there's some stuff in there that you guys both like. Maybe a sports team. Maybe there's like a political belief. Maybe there's a spiritual one. Maybe it's a lack of spiritual beliefs. Maybe you guys both like cars or trucks or something, or whatever it is. It doesn't matter. Maybe you both have children. See, that's a very strong one. Whether or not all your other beliefs align, if you both have children or something like that, that's something you can start with right there. There is something called the liking and disliking tendency. I'll go ahead and write that here for y'all. So liking / disliking tendency. So what does this say? This is one of those cognitive biases I talk about a lot on here. Now, sometimes it's called the liking bias or the disliking bias. Sometimes it's tendency. Sometimes it's fallacy. There are different words that, depending on who you're listening to, different people use different words. But the liking, disliking tendency is basically saying, if you like somebody right here, you're more likely to keep liking them. Keep liking them, and what else? And find other things. Things you like. Same thing is true with disliking. If liking tendency basically says, and you build a little bit of rapport by being a decent person, you know, good firm grip on a handshake, have that enthusiasm to meet them, actually connecting with them and having an interest in, hey, you know, who are you? You know, it's great that you're here. You know, that might be a new friend or a comrade of mine or a business partner. Who knows what it's going to be, but actually the eye contact and having your body facing them. You don't want to be facing over here and you're like, oh, hey, nice to meet you. That's the opposite of rapport. But having all of those things shows them with your body language that you are actually invested in them. They'll start to like you right there. And then they're more likely, through the liking tendency, to keep liking you. And not just that, to find other things, right? Find other things with an S that they like. That's also called commitment consistency bias. When you start, like, some people call it the halo effect too, with this specific thing. When you start to like somebody, it's harder to break out of that liking than it would be if they were completely neutral, or if you dislike them. Same thing with disliking. You dislike somebody, think of a politician you don't like. A lot of the stuff they do, you don't like, and you continue not to like it, and you find little things to nitpick all over here. And by the way, that might be a dangerous thing if you take that too far, because here we're about open-mindedness. We're about connecting with people, and we're about forging those social connections, those meaningful connections, okay, rapport, and all of those things. You can still keep your beliefs, but you still have to kind of live and work with these people, you know what I'm saying? So if you want to build rapport and be known as a person who is, you know, pretty chill with everybody and easy to get along with, and if you're in sales or something, this really helps. If you're in sales, you should try to get along with as many people who are not part of that sales process as possible. Just people in your day-to-day. Maybe other co-workers, maybe other family members that you might not be able to stand. But those few times that you see them, the more that you can do this, the liking, the more you build that rapport, and the easier it is to them to just keep in that. Same thing with you. They do some things that you like, your brain wants to just be like, okay, let's just keep going with that. And because we don't want to change. Change is hard. They might screw up once in a while, but we'll find the silver lining and stuff like that. Very powerful. Disliking tendency is the same thing, though. Like I said, there's a politician you don't like. Probably everything they do, it's hard for you to find the good in it. There's probably good in what they do in some ways. And this is another topic that I cover at length on another video, but basically why you need to strengthen your own beliefs with counter arguments. You got to be able to argue the other side as well or better than they can. There's a famous person who said that. So Abraham Lincoln would say that, I don't like them. It might be because of their beliefs. It might be because of whatever background that I've heard about them, I'm going to get to know them better rather than default to disliking. Now let's talk about this too, because this is also part of it. Anthropomorphication. But this anthropomorphizing something, what that means is it's giving human qualities to things that aren't humans. For example, if your car isn't working properly, and we say, oh, my car is acting up. Well, technically speaking, cars don't act up. They don't act, right? They do what we basically operate them to do. But there is a correctness in saying, hey, the car is acting up. That's anthropomorphizing right there. That basically means you're giving the human quality of being able to behave in different ways to a car. It humanizes it a little. Now, here's the problem with that. Anthropomorphication here, let me grab a different color. Anthropomorphication is dangerous because we think of things like, I don't know, like cars acting up, or or maybe you have an investment portfolio that is doing very well, and you're like, man, that investment portfolio is the sweetest thing. It's treating me so well. It's an inanimate object, or actually an investment portfolio is, in a way, it's kind of more of a meme than it is an object, because it's like several things. Oftentimes we don't have a folder anymore that is all those things. You see what I'm saying? Like, for example, your credit card. It's a card, but there's also the account, and there's not like a drawer at the bank that has all of your, if you have a debit account or a checking account or something, there's not like a drawer at the bank that's like, hey, this is my account, right? It's kind of a meme. It's just kind of more of an idea. And we would anthropomorphize that by saying, man, my checking account is kind of weak these days or something. Well, weak implies health, which implies living things. A checking account isn't a living thing. Do you see? Now the problem is, here's the problem. When we anthropomorphize, we use this anthropomorphication, and we anthropomorphize this groups of people. Are groups of people living things? Actually, no. A group is an idea. Let's say like a football team. The group itself isn't living. The individual people in it are. But you take a football team, for example, and you're like, okay, the Dallas Cowboys suck right now. Or they're doing great right now. That's anthropomorphizing the group. Or you can say something that's easier is let's go with suck. Have nothing against the Dallas Cowboys. It's just easier to see in an example when something is negative, because humans kind of latch on to negative things easy. You can say, the Cowboys suck, man. That's anthropomorphizing the group, because I bet you there's some Cowboys in there that are really awesome. So when you anthropomorphize a group, anyone that's part of that group gets that label, whether it's for good or bad. So you can find the best player on that team and say, oh, but you're part of that group, and we have already anthropomorphized that group as suck. It sucks. So therefore, you suck. It's kind of like an inheritance, sort of. Or I forgot what that's called, but like if you're part of the group, you inherit whatever the group has. The issue is, people don't just do that with things that, in the grand scheme of things don't matter. They do it with things like races of people. Like, hey, this person's from Asia. They probably speak silly sounding English. Or you can say it with a good thing. This person's Asian. Therefore, Asians are good at math. Therefore, that person is good at math. That's not a good thing to do, even in the positive like that, because you're taking away the person's identity. They might be good at math. They might not be. I've known Asian people that don't like math, man. So, do you see what I'm saying? Now, why is this important? Because anthropomorphication, it says you must use caution when under the influence of it, and you are almost 100% of the time, unless you take the time to stop and really assess what it is you're feeling about this person because they belong to this certain race, this certain political leaning, this certain religion, this certain other group of people. Maybe they're part of a book club, or maybe they love 50 Shades of Grey or something. They're part of a 50 Shades of Grey book club or something like that. And you're like, dude, that's the worst book I ever read. The people who love those books, they're idiots. You're anthropomorphizing that group of people, 50 Shades of Grey lovers, as all idiots. Do you see what I'm saying? So this is an issue, like I said, when it comes to race, when it comes to age, when it comes to gender, when it comes to things like that. And don't think that this doesn't have an effect on you, because it does. There's not an option of it having at least a snap reaction effect. Now you have the option of, oh, hold on one second. My brain is playing a script and automatically saying, oh, this person's part of that group. Remember what we learned about that group. They're great or terrible at this or that or whatever. The problem with that is that this right here will screw this up right here. When you anthropomorphize groups, you kind of do the opposite of what Abraham Lincoln said. This is why that's why he said that I don't like that man. I must get to know him better. Because he doesn't like him. Why? Because he's anthropomorphizing a group of people. Here's like, okay, so that dude over there is part of some, maybe differing political beliefs, or maybe he, I don't know, has a different color shoes. It can be something as silly as that. It can be like, well, this person likes to do this sort of thing with his money. And Abe Lincoln is thinking to himself, okay, whoa, hold on one second. I don't even know that man. Yeah, he has this belief, or he does this with his, he wears these kind of shoes or something. Abe, he wore that top hat, man, that he was famous for. Maybe this other person was wearing a different kind of hat, and he's like, you know what? I don't like people that don't wear top hats. Right? But then he stops himself. He's like, okay, is that actually logical, though? That's your emotional brain talking, saying like, okay, everybody who doesn't wear the right hat is an idiot. It sounds silly, but that's literally what your brain does. It's a very A plus B equals C sort of like mechanism that it uses. It just runs these scripts because they're easy. Just like this script of liking we talked about already. To continue liking something, or to see people in a favorable light, the halo effect, is easier for your brain to keep doing than to back out of that and assess the whole thing. So that's why it keeps happening. It keeps running that script. So Abe Lincoln is like, okay, hold on one second. We need to build true rapport here, meaningful connections here. We need to get to know them, okay? Because, like I was saying before, he would say, I guarantee it, there's some things that we agree on. There's some camaraderie to be had here. Yeah, they might like this or don't like that or something, and let's not worry about that. Let's worry about forging a true connection. It's a very, very powerful way to live, especially when you're meeting new people. If you are in something like sales, you gotta do this. You're gonna meet a lot of people who at first glance aren't gonna be your kind of people. But having that meaningful connection, investing in them, that's gonna help your rapport, because you're gonna find things that you like. There's a thing that I was taught one time called the 99 and 1% rule. And basically what that means is you find the 1% of something that you agree with and back it up 99%. If you can't find anything else, find one little thing. All right, let's talk about behavioral switching. What is this? So I define behavioral switching as you switch your behaviors and your thought processes and your beliefs, not having different beliefs, but you switch to the ones that are most in line with the person you're trying to gain rapport with. You can even do this with a group of people, okay? So if you have a group of people that has certain kinds of beliefs and stuff, you find the belief that you are most, like, that you can back up the most, and you behaviorally switch to that one. And work with that. This is different than faking it till you make it. Faking it till you make it works with some things. It's particularly powerful when you do it like reflexively, like when you do it to yourself, like when you tell yourself, look, okay, I'm awesome, I know a lot of stuff, I'm gonna be really great at this job, I'm gonna do this. And when you're doing it to yourself, it helps a lot. You don't want to do that with other people like too haphazardly, because humans are very good at finding things that are artificial or manufactured or fake, and fake will destroy that quicker than almost anything else. People will dislike a person that is trying to act and pretend as if they have the same beliefs than they would a person who is straight up and is like, I don't have those same beliefs. They'll not like the person that is faking it more. They'll dislike them more than the person who isn't faking it, because we don't like fake. Humans do not like that fake. So behaviorally switch means like, we're going to find that part of our personality that really agrees with this. It's also with little things. Like if you meet somebody, let's say you're in like a sales situation. You meet somebody who is kind of reserved and they're a thinker and they're thinking about a product or service and like running the numbers in their heads and projecting out into the future what it's going to do for them. And then you meet that energy with, yeah, man, this is the greatest thing forever, since forever. You know, my daddy had one of these, I have one of these, my son has one of these, and all these people I know, and let me show you these features and benefits and this and that. You can't do that with a person who's being very contemplative, who might be more reserved, a little more introverted. You don't want to use all that crazy energy. You want to behaviorally switch that behavior to the part of you that can also be like, yeah, you know, it might be good to tone it down right now. Really think through this thing with this other person. That builds rapport a lot, because that is part of that liking bias. We tend to like things that are more similar to us. And think about it this way. Instead, you would think that, well, won't that come off as fake? Not really, because there's a part of you that sometimes has to sit down and damn think about something. And in a odd twist, the way that you'll come off will probably be more like, whew, man, I have to be on all the time. I have to be dynamic and like talking to people and yeah. It's nice to meet somebody and have a sales situation with somebody to where we can step back, tone the energy down, and really think about what's going on. Is it good for you and your needs right now? That is behaviorally switching. You wouldn't want to, go into a nursery with a bunch of sleeping babies and not match their quietness. Maybe you're a loud person and you're dynamic and you're extroverted by your very nature, but if you got a bunch of sleeping babies, that is not the part of you that you want to use. You want to switch your behavior to that quiet you. Be like, okay, we need to talk pretty low. Talk low in here. The babies are sleeping. Because if you don't match that, them babies ain't gonna like you, man. They're gonna do this. Baby is gonna dislike this loud ass here. This is you being really loud. You got one of them megaphone things, right? And you're making a lot of noise. And you got them babies sleeping, right? You got them in the cribs here. You can't see the baby, it's inside the crib, but he's got a thought bubble. Let's pull that thought bubble over here. And it says, I hate this guy. That's you. The baby in the crib, this is a horrible crib, but I'm explaining it to you. He's like, I hate this guy. I don't know why that's so close together. It looks like one word. So I hate this guy. And you know how babies say that in baby? They start crying and screaming, okay? So you don't want to go into a nursery being that dynamic person. You'll be like, well, why not be being fake? No, you're behaviorally switching to what is proper for the moment. That's a very powerful thing with rapport. This right here can be used very powerfully with what I said right here, with liking. Okay? Right here. Marking this thing up too much. But because when you behaviorally switch, you don't do it fake in a fake way. You just kind of match the energy of the other person. If they're kind of sad about something, imagine walking into like a funeral home or something, and there's a funeral going on, and your friend, somebody in their family died, and they're having the funeral for it, and you walk up to them like, yeah, what's up, man? Guess what I did yesterday, man? We went out and we partied, and we this and that. No, you would not do that. Even if 90% of the time that's your personality. You would switch your behavior to, hey, man, this is important to this person. That meaningful connection. Right there, meaningful connection. You would switch that behavior so that you establish a more meaningful connection. And that boosts rapport. Especially when you feel the things other people do, when you use that empathy of yours, and almost all human beings have empathy to a certain degree. And you're able to, have you ever been sad about something? Exactly. So someone else is sad about something, you already know kind of how they're feeling. You gotta behaviorally switch and tone it down a little, because you don't want to be going in there and just rocking that place when there's something like a funeral going on. The same thing goes the other way. If there's like a wedding or something, you don't want to go in there and be the bluest person and just be like, God, man, my life sucks, and love is the worst and like all these people, they left me and I can't find any. But no, you're going to bring the whole thing down. There's a part of you that's happy and that can switch. So anyways, that's behavioral switching. So it helps with meaningful connection and rapport, but always remember anthropomorphication is you got to step away from that, especially when you're trying to build some meaningful connection. You're getting introduced to somebody or you're just trying to broaden your own network. The first thing you got to do is, as much as possible, you got to look for reasons to like people. People like people that like them. So you got to look for those reasons, just like Abe Lincoln said. He says, I don't like that man. I need to get to know him better. I must get to know him better because I know there are some things that we have in common and that can build our camaraderie. All right? So, anyways, please do like and subscribe for me and all of those other wonderful things. You can leave a comment if you would like. But yeah, this has been on Rapport, Meaningful Connection, Behavioral Switching, and all of those things. Remember, beware anthropomorphication because it is happening 100% of the time when you are around people and you don't even know it. Sometimes you anthropomorphize people for good things or with good qualities, but try not to let your brain go too much on autopilot. Look for those things that you like, and that's what you want to lean into. If you're going to anthropomorphize and you're trying to get other people to either like you or build your network, you want to anthropomorphize in a positive way. Always be looking for reasons to like somebody. Okay? So, thank y'all so much for being here and have a beautiful day.